Welcome to the project, everyone. We are so close to having this project finally done with. If this is your first time, I'm Colby. Welcome, glad you're here. But we're working on doing a 2.5 liter FB25 swap into our 2013 Crosstrek, and holy moly has it been a journey, because like that intro, I mean, those parts have been sitting in the trunk for like months at this point. But we're finally here, we're so close, and I'm in dirty clothes because I'm hoping to pull the engine hoist out and start putting this thing back in finally in this video. So I'm really excited. We finally have it there, but we do have a few things we need to solve before we put it in. I did get new idler pulleys and a new belt and stuff, so we can put that on. That's basically it for this. We do need, once we get off the stand, we do need to get the new clutch, which I'll show you what I have, and then we also need to figure out the catch can situation, and I think that's mainly it, at least for the first startup. So yeah, we have a little bit of work ahead of us, but guys, we're so close. This is it. This is gonna be the video. It's been months to get to this point, and we're in a little bit of a rush because next weekend I'm going to be gone, and my wife really wants her car, and the truck is going to be on the channel here real soon, and you'll see why. But let's get this ready to go back in. I think we're just about ready to start doing clutch stuff and start getting this off the stand and getting this into the car. But I will just note the evap system in here, where basically we recirculate the oil film or the oil mist, where we take the crankcase gases and it has the oil mist in it, and we reheat it, which gunks up our whole intake and everything. Over here we have some actual high quality tubing. I got it cheap off the shelf catch can, so we got to figure out where we want to mount this. On top of all of this, I also got little clamps, so that way you can make sure the hoses don't fall off, and these should be pretty decent quality inline evap valves. So they basically are just a one-way air valve. And I might actually put this in. I know you might have seen I tried to drill out the other one, but I'm gonna put this one in as well, because I think it'll do a better job of like not letting any back pressure into that. But so it's going to be completely sealed, and this should hopefully catch all the oil mist and not inside the motor, or inside the intake I should say. So I'm going to at least put on one of these clamps and kind of get this hose sitting here a little bit, and then once it's in the car we'll figure out where we can mount this guy and actually finish running all the hoses. Should be pretty good. Alright, so I have not opened this at all. In trying to figure out a clutch, I mean, how many manual Crosstreks do you know of, and how many manual Crosstreks want a performance clutch? So it was a little bit hard trying to find this. I did see a bunch of suggestions for Exetti, and I actually ordered it, and then after a bit I like got a call with them or something, and they're like, oh, our system's messed up, we're waiting for like one part for it to ship. And I actually got a pretty good technical spec from him, and you know, because I saw that there was like an FB25 clutch, but an FB20 clutch was slightly different. And he basically said, yeah, the distance from like the flywheel to the input shaft on the transmission is slightly different on the 6-speed, which is in the FB25, like the Forester and whatnot. And so I wanted this one. I wish there was a little bit, like this is like their street kit. I mean, it's probably gonna be fine for what I do, but I just wish I could have gotten a little bit more performance just in case. I probably won't use it, but The guy was super nice and really knowledgeable, and we were just talking on the phone, and so he's like, cool, you know, you're putting an FP25 in a Crosstrek, I totally understand, this is the clutch you want, this is what you're gonna do, and all of that. And so, pilot bearing, got our pressure plate. Oh, this is probably our throwout bearing. Yep, there's our throwout bearing, which is good because we need to replace that. And then I did get a sport flywheel, you know, like a lightened flywheel because mine was wrecked. So we now will have a sport clutch in our Crosstrek. There we go. Yeah, so we're gonna have to clean the oil off of this and whatnot. Should be exciting. I'm actually really excited. I've never had an XZD. I've never had one of their clutches. I've seen them around, and now we could actually try it out. But the main thing we need to do right now is actually, once we get it off the stand, we need to get our throwout bearing in, and then we have our pilot bearing. Then we can look up how best to mount up all of these. Want to be a little careful. So I went with like organic sprung. I kind of wanted to go for like an unsprung, or something slightly more aggressive, but it was basically 3-puck or this, and 3-puck was going to be too aggressive for what we want to do. So this is fine. Should hold a little bit more power. Should be decent for the FP25. Let's get to installing these two. So before I put this on, if you guys ever wonder, and I'll have to take it up to the mic here, this is a bad bearing. There. And then here's a good one. Like you guys. So much quieter. Hey, the last like hour of struggling, I realized wasn't even recording because of camera troubles. Yeah, let's get it in. I'm already doing that, but I'm running into some issues. Let me show you. So like I said in the clip just before this that I didn't actually record, I'm doing this all by myself, so bear with me. And I was struggling, but it's because, do you see right there? Look, there's a pin, there's a pin in our new motor block, and there's the old pin still in the transmission. So let's pull the motor out a little bit and knock that pin out, and then we can continue on with my struggle. There's actually a pin on both sides, and the pins were in the block on both sides, so I had to punch them both out. But all right, try take two, where you guys are actually watching. Ta-da! Oh man, it's in. It's in, everything's fitting up. I basically just got the transmission bolts on there. Engine mounts I need to tighten up. I think that's it for tonight. Tomorrow will be like in a second for you guys, but look, it's in. No more engine hoist, no more engine stand. The FB25 is in its home. Woo! Man, I'm excited. We're almost about to start this up. Look at the first start and see how it goes. I'm going to sleep. I'll see you in a second. All right, so we only got a few more things to button up. I think I did figure out where I'm gonna mount my oil catch can, and it basically is gonna be out of the way. It is gonna be on the motor. Let me show you. So here on the back side of the motor, this is where we have our lines coming in, and there's this like pickup point, and I think I'm literally just going to like hose clamp it around that. We'll see how it does. I don't want it to rattle, but like the intake actually comes and fills in a lot of this space, except right here. So it's like the whole intake covers it up, and then it would be a really short boop into it, and then boop back into there. So sure, I'm gonna have to like undo the hose clamp and stuff every time I want to empty it, but I should be able to like just pop the intake and check it, which shouldn't be too hard. I was thinking like maybe over here, but nah, it just sit it right there and it should be good. We're gonna hook up the battery and hopefully nothing blows up. That's the hope. All right, so other than a really bad battery terminal, I'm still working on getting the software up and running, but I've pulled all the coil wires so that we shouldn't get any spark, and I can turn the motor over. We should be able to turn the motor over a bunch and get oil to everywhere they need and get good oil pressure before we start trying to have it fire up, because the oil filter, none of that has oil in it. So we got to get all the passages up and running. So I'm going to use this to look at the oil pressure. We're gonna get to the first startup here. I think I've turned it over enough to get oil pressure, but I'm getting two codes, and it's the intake runner stuck open, like P2004 on bank 1 and 2. And so that's where we have a 2016 legacy intake, but these are from the Crosstrek. These are the old ones, and from the FB25 that I got. So here's the valves in here, the tumble generator valve, and then here's the actuator on there. And I'm trying my best to test to see if it's my motors or what, and I actually looked in the manual, and sure enough they actually have a decent way of kind of testing how this works. Yeah, we will see if they are working, and I need to make sure that this is the same setup on those guys. But this is the actuator that came with the intake. So these are 2016 Subaru Legacy actuators for the TGVs, and down in here you can see the gear. As long as I make sure these don't touch, what we can do is actually make sure, so we've got like 12 volts on here, and if they're not touching, which I think they are, there we go. Make sure they're not touching, we can go like that. And we can even reverse it and go the other direction. So what happens, so that's a good one, or at least it sounds good. Here's the ones that I accidentally sandblasted or walnut blasted. You guys ready for this? Yeah, that doesn't sound good. So yeah, I'm pretty sure sandblasting these guys have made them no good anymore. But the new ones I got were the ones on it, and I'm still getting that code. So we need to dig into it a little bit more, but at least wanted to show you that. 12 volts, the 2 pins here on the bottom, and you just flip them one way or the other to see it spin. And in the manual they say don't do it for more than 10 seconds. So yeah, let's go figure it out. So here's the TGV valves that came off of the Crosstrek, off of the FP20. Now we have the Subaru Legacy FP25 2016 intake. And look on here, we have this gear, and then we have this little bar magnet. And remember how this looks, you know, they open and close. And even though the sensor looks, you know, basically identical, I think they changed it up. So let me show you down in here. Hopefully it's not too shaky, but here's the runner coming in, here's the TGV valve, and there is the actuator. Or sorry, like where the actuator comes on. And you see this piece? I mean, look at that. That magnet does not look the same at all. It almost looks like there's a bit of a ramp there, which means that how this guy senses where the position is. The motor might work just fine on the new ones, but how this senses the position is not how my computer is expecting to sense the position of those. And so that's why I keep getting that issue. So I need to figure out what I'm doing there. All right, so here's my plan of attack. This connector came with the intake when we got it. And so not all the wires were fully in it, but at least all the terminals were there. So I've brought out my own wires, and we're gonna actually put together this plug. And then looking at the repair manual, basically what they suggest, and I believe what it is like these top 3 pins. So bottom 2 flip back and forth on 12 volts to drive the motor. In the top 3 we have ground, positive, and then the output of the sensor, which I think is just a Hall effect sensor. And they say use like dry cell batteries, that kind of a thing. It's just 5 volts. I'm pretty sure it's just 5 volts. And then that will tell us, and we can even see the sensor right here. So if I connect this up, then I can use their method to actually see what the difference is. So let's put this connector together and go from there. So we got our connector together, should plug on just fine. They do have a pull down from ground to the output, so I'm gonna have to use 2 power supplies. I'm gonna use this one over here and this one over here. This will be just 12 volts because this guy's kind of dumb, but this will be the 5 volts over here. Just to verify. So let's try this. Yep, and if we switch it, so there we go. So that works for that guy. Alright, so that's 0.8 amps. So we're going to want to go from ground to our output here. Turn it on. Look at that, 1 volt. Turn it off. Turn it on. 1 volt. That's cool. So let's actually hook up this new sensor to our old TGVs. Let's just verify this actually works. See? Up. Closed. You guys seeing that? 0.3, and when we open, 4.4. And when we close, 0.3. And we open, 4.4. So what do they want to see? Basically when it's closed 0 to 0.5 and when it's open about 5 volts. So I don't know if that counts. That's 4.4. And when we close it, that's 0.3. So let's turn that off. Let's put one of our crusty old guys on here and see what that does. Okay, so plug this in. None of our wires are touching. Oh wow, 0 volts. And let's open it. 0 volts. And let's close. 0 volts. Yeah, I think the Hall effect sensor might have died, because that should be outputting at least something. Our old actuator, at least this guy, seems to be dead, even though the motor kind of works. Alright, let's try another one. Alright, next one. What do you know? 0 output and 0 output. So maybe the wires are switched up on my harness, because the new ones seem to work just fine. But these guys do not. So what do we know? We know that all the old ones are putting out 0 voltages. Is it because we killed them by putting water down in there? Or is it just wired differently? At least the motor seems to be wired the same. So maybe we just need to repin our connectors for these new stuff. After kind of troubleshooting this a few nights, you know, like here and there a few nights, this is what I've kind of figured out. This is the new, or no, this is an old gear, but the new gear, which I already have in there, it's missing 2 teeth. And the endpoints are different, and how they've indexed on the rod is different, meaning this hole is not at the right angle that it should be. So here's the deal. The magnet sits about the same place, and this magnet is different. And so that's where I was just, on the new rods, I was gonna take these and then modify my old magnets, because I have extras of them, to work on the new rods. Then I can use my old sensors on the new system, and it should get it. It should work. Here's what I've kind of found. I think these sensors in here on this top piece is just a switch. It's just on, off, analog. And that magnet just flips it on or off so it can know if it's open or closed. But then on the new ones, it's actually a Hall effect sensor, and so you can tell the position of it, like whether it's halfway open, full open, and that kind of a thing. And that's where, so this magnet is for position, and this magnet is for on-off. My ECU is looking for on-off, so what I'm gonna do again is modify these ones to work for the new rods. So that way, because again, these flaps are indexed differently. We're gonna see if that can get rid of our DCT codes, or our codes on the computer. So let me modify the other one and then I'll show you what it looks like. So this is old sensor with the new modified magnet in there, and we've got our control over here and then the 5 volts for the sensor here. So if we turn it on, you can see we're at 5 volts. And then if we come in here, excuse the mess. So there go 5 volts, and if we come in here, that's full one direction, and oh, well, yeah, I gotta plug it in. So that's the pull-up resistor. You can see we have a pull-up resistor, and we plug it in here. Now we should be able to actually control this. See, 0.02, 4.9, so basically 5 volts. So this is kind of what we should be seeing when these open and close. That looks like it's working, honestly. Let me show you what the other side looks like. So here's the other side, and we've got new actuator with new magnets. So like this 2016 intake this is the setup that it came with. You know, this is what it should be. And if we come in here, so we do have power to it, and you can see we're at 1.1 volts. So that's like closed. And then when we open it up, see, 3.8. So that's where I think this is definitely like a Hall effects, where you can see the actual position. You know, I could even go a little bit and then like fully open. See, like there's a little bit closed and then like fully closed. And so my computer's not looking for this like analog range, it's looking for on off. So we need to modify both of them so they're both on off for what my computer needs. So I got off my modified one, and again, I need to modify the other one. So if we put the magnet on here, indexed there, you can see originally, originally the magnet indexed like this. You see in the relation to that other one. So then what I did is I modified it so I could come in here and index the magnet like that. Here, let me pull this off. So here's the original placement of the magnet, and I just shaved it down so that way we could clamp it down like that. So not like this, but like that. And hopefully that'll be enough to actually get this to work. So we've done one magnet, so I'm gonna grab one of my other spares and then cut it out just like this, or you know, file it out just like this. Well, I did modify them, and I actually have both of the old actuators in here right now. I tested them on my test rig, and they work per spec of the manual, so I'm almost wondering if maybe it's like they need to be flipped or something like that. So I want to deal with that a little bit later. I'm dying to see if this motor actually runs, actually starts up. So I am gonna fill it up with coolant, you know, act of faith or something. And then I'm gonna get on the computer, make sure I can watch the AFRs as it starts up, just to make sure nothing's too crazy wrong. And then we'll see if this puppy starts. So now, actually come in here, plug our ignition coils so we actually have spark and boom boom. Well, here's the time. There's nothing left but to do it. Gonna open up the garage, and hopefully the motor we built actually works. I'm like legitimately real nervous about this. So yeah, let's do it. So I just started unplugging each coil to see if I could find a difference. But I've also heard that Subarus, like, you know, when you let the battery sit for a super long time out of it, it takes a long time for it to learn the new motor. So, and I'm kind of seeing that, like as I keep trying more and more, it's actually running a little bit better and better. I really hope I'm not damaging anything, but again, sounds like it's not running on all four. But there, I just started it while the camera was off, and it did sound like at least two pistons were kind of starting to come up. So even though it makes me kind of nervous, I want to just kind of keep going and see if we can learn this motor a bit and maybe do a bit better. Well, guys, it was a bit of a rush there for a bit. We did finally get the motor in, and I think this is where we're gonna have to stop, at least this portion of the video. I really wanted this like to be the end, and you know, this is the final chapter, but obviously we have a bit more to go. I thought it was a spark issue. I've checked every single corner. They all have spark. And then I also just swapped out for the 2-liter injectors, and that still didn't make anything. So something else is going wrong, and we need to really figure it out. I just don't want this video to drag out too long. And honestly, like having the video go until it's like fully done, like this might take a bit. So we're gonna end the video here, and in the next one, that'll be the main focus. We're gonna go over the sensors. We're gonna go and actually figure out what is wrong here, because mechanically, I think we're doing really good. I don't think anything's broken. At least mechanically. There's probably just a sensor that we need to find. So let's figure it out. That'll do it for this video. I'm so glad that you guys came along. It's been a freaking journey to get to this point. So if you've made it that long, if you've been here since the beginning, I'm honestly really appreciative of you. Really glad you're here. The Crosstrek will be running soon. Love you guys, and I hope you hit the subscribe button so I can see you on the next video. I just love having you around, and love your support. So we'll see you guys later. Bye.